Hello. So we have discussed the notion of a forbidden romance in this channel before. And that would be the concept of falling in love with someone who you are not supposed to. That would be something like an arranged marriage or falling in love with the enemy side. You say it. But there's a different genre that kind of like is a subset or a superset. No, not a superset, definitely. It's a subset of this type. And that's Monster Romance. I don't even know where did these books come from or when did they come, but it is like somehow I find myself lost in book talk and getting faced with books like Bride, Akatar, you name it. It goes back in time, like it goes to paranormal romance such as Twilight or things like that. But the thing is, right now, there is a very weird genre happening, and it's called Monster Romance, or some sort of like a paranormal romance, but where your love interest is actually a monster. Let me name one example. I have my laptop here as a reference, but yeah, the book called Ice Planet Barbarians. I had never heard of this book before, but when I looked it up, apparently it's about a woman who gets abducted by aliens and falls in love with a big blue horned guy. And there's another one, and this is not just like one single book. I did check it on Goodreads, and somehow this has more reviews and almost the same rating as Death of Ilya Ilyich book by Leo Tolstoy, which is like weird. And there's another book, I'm not making this up by the way. It's called Morning Glory Milking Farm. And it is a book where the love interest is a 7-foot minotaur. I had to search what is a minotaur, or is it minotaur? And yeah, random genre, just rising up in book talk, and everyone is suddenly obsessed with werewolves, vampires, monsters, doorknobs, Shreks, etc. So the easy joke here is that like, haha, people just want to date monsters nowadays. They are just tired of humans, and the internet and minds are broken. Let's just see oranges and bananas fall in love together in some fruit land and just watch them. It's just how it is. But no, I went down the rabbit hole on this one, and honestly, it has a bit more complicated and more layers into it than just the internet is broken. So what are we even talking about? Here is a quick setup so that like we can make sure that we are all on the same page. Monster romance is exactly what it sounds like. Love stories, well, at least one partner isn't human. And by isn't human, like you name it. It could be orcs, aliens, demons, mermaids. I didn't know like mermen exist. Apparently, like I thought that it's always mermaid, and I have never thought that there's a maid inside the mermaid, and mermaid is actually the woman. But if it is a man, that would be merman. Anyway, so it is like mermen, dragons, shapeshifters, etc. So whatever you can imagine can be a point, an element, an event, a probabilistic event inside this subset of monster romance. The academic word for being attracted to non-human or monstrous beings is teratophilia. So it's not a new concept, and it's been here like for a while. It goes back to maybe ancient times, but the genre is not new, but it kind of like exploded after 2022. And the reason is basically one word: book talk, which is the book community on TikTok, and you already are familiar with it. You just post a video from being in love with a doorknob, and then you suddenly have 2 million views, and that book is a bestseller. Oh, and just to mention, this Ice Planet Barbarian thing that I did mention, I'm not sure if I'm saying the correct name or not, but it has like 200,000 reviews on Goodreads at least, and I know that it was a bestseller. So one way of thinking of this concept that I did see being discussed in so many websites and so many books, like Beauty and the Beast type of things, and I also saw a video on it, is that the idea that the monster is not the point here, and it's just a shell, it's just a scary shell, and what's inside is actually beautiful. So the inner beauty and these type of concepts would be one type of thinking about this genre. Now let's discuss the reasons that why this genre is even popular right now. So the first reason is love me as I am. So in a normal romance, let's say you have this CEO, billionaire person, beautiful coach, captain, hockey player, whatever. The main character usually has to earn being loved. Like, she is beautiful, she's clever, she glows up. There is some sort of thing that happens and she earns this being loved. And her desirability is normally tied to human scorecards. Let's say looks, I don't know, age, money, status, etc. Now, put a dragon in the room. A dragon doesn't care about your body fat or how you would look or what is your money status. So an alien has no idea what a good job is. A monitor. Not a monitor. A minotaur is not judging your outfit. So when they fall for the main character, they fall for her. Full stop. No condition. Psychologists have a name for this. The humanistic therapist Carl Roger calls it unconditional positive regard, which is like being fully accepted exactly as you are with no strings. It's one of the things that Carl Rogers argued that people need the most, and Monster Romace actually brings it. It delivers a fantasy that has this. Or basically, I'm quoting that in these stories, the heroine is desired exactly as she is. And many readers say it gives them a sense of emotional safety that they don't get from regular romance. One reader quote that stuck with me was just, he doesn't compare me to anyone. Reason 2, it's the anti-dating app. Let's talk about modern dating for a second. Sorry to bring this up, but we have ghosting, we have situationship, we have I want to keep my options open, or you talk with the guy for like 3 weeks and you get mixed signals and then the guy vanishes as if he never existed. So a lot of dating right now is just full of ambiguity and you genuinely don't know where you stand. That goes the same with lots of human romances. But in the monster love, we have how the monster love interest behaves. So there's a huge trope in this genre called fated mates. You know what I'm talking about. It's like Akatar. You know how Reese was like, oh, you are my mate, and I did know this from the very beginning. And yeah, I don't know, you do have some odor or something that they would think that you are their mate, and that's it. No choice at all. There is no other option. That's it. You have been destined to each other from the very, very first day. So the idea is that this creature is biologically, permanently, unquestionably devoted to you and no other person. No games, no let me think about it, or no secretly better option out there. Just you are mine, that's it, that's decided, I'm not going anywhere. And this is something that has been happening with these monster romances, at least for a while, and at least in some cases. This actually connects to the works of psychiatrist John Bowlby, who developed attachment theory. Well, basically, like how safe and secure we feel in close relationships. People with a more anxious attachment style spend a lot of energy worried about being abandoned. The fated mate fantasy is exactly the opposite of that. It's a partner whose loyalty isn't just promised by words, it's actually built into their nature and it's built into what they are. For an anxious brain that is always afraid of losing their mate, this is very soothing to read. So a chunk of this trend is basically consisted of people who are tired of being ignored, tired of being ghosted, tired of guessing what's the feeling going on, and just need the feeling of sureness and just being the, okay, that's it. And the monster here is actually a creature who just doesn't make you guess. Desire is weird. It doesn't just want safety and comfort. It actually wants sometimes a little danger, mystery, some edges, some, what is this? The tentacles of octopus or something like that.
Esther Perel.
Esther Perel. Okay. The relationship therapist Esther Perel actually argues in her books, Mating in Captivity, that eroticism actually feeds on distance, mystery, and otherness. The very things a cozy, secure relationship tends to smooth away. Well, a monster is the maximum otherness here, and that leads the reader to explore some intense stuff without feeling guilty about it. Something like power, surrender, being physically overwhelmed, being with something a little dangerous from a very, very safe seat. So you have your book in your hand, everything is good, but you can let your imagination be wild there. So there is one important point to make here, and that's where monster romance actually differs from the human dark romance. Like in the dark romance, you have the human partner who could be an abuser partner who is like a billionaire, whatever. There is so much power imbalance here, but it's a human. And the problem is that that hits too much close to home for the people who have experienced such a thing in their actual relationships. But a kraken, no, with those tentacles, your brain easily filters that. And it will be like, oh, okay, it's a fantasy. I'm safe here. And that's much easier to experience. Another point to mention here is the idea that monsters are always about us. So there is a famous piece of writing by Professor Jeffrey Jerome Cohen called Monster Culture, 7 Theses. It just reminds me of Monster Book of Monsters, Hagrid's favorite book. Anyway, a 1996 book, and it has a monster theory reading culture part. So Cohen's core argument is actually beautiful. He mentions that monsters are made of culture. Every monster is born from a specific time and place and tells you what that society was afraid of or secretly wanted. His line is that the word monster means that which reveals or that which warns. Study a culture's monsters and you learn what the culture is anxious about. So if the monsters once were carrying our fears, and now the whole generation suddenly wanting to love and marry the monster instead of running from it, that's actually a beautiful and real take and signal here. Cohen would say something's shifting in what we are afraid of and what we want. And we also have the point of Catherine Spooner in her 2017 book called Post-Millennial Gothic, who argues that Gothic, which is like all vampires and creatures and spooky stuff, has quietly turned friendly. She calls it happy Gothic. And it's like the monster went from a threat that you flee to a figure that's romantic, that's funny, and even cozy. Like we have the coffee shop that is like governed by the monsters, and you can just go there and ask for a tea there. And there are a bunch of monsters who work there. Okay, so one thing that has been bugging me a lot, and I've been noticing it so much while doing the research for this video, is that in straight monster romances, it's always, nearly always, a human woman and a monster male who is the love interest. We have the orc, the alien, a werewolf, a demon, etc. And he is the beast. The woman is the one who gets swept up. So where are the monster girlies here? Where is the story where you have this regular guy who falls head over heels for a genuinely scary tentacled woman? They exist. Let's just give a credit to them. But they are very rare. And that's not an accident. And let me make a case for why. So the first reason is actually who's reading this. Monster romance is overwhelmingly written by and for straight women. So the fantasy is built around a woman's desire, and the thing that she's desiring is a male. That's the starting point, but it goes deeper than just that. And the next reason is that the monster isn't attractive because he's extra masculine. It's actually attractive because he's not a man. This is a clever bit. In one essay on the genre, writer Sithara Ranasinghe points out to a study by Colin Andrews titled A Craving for the Creature, arguing that women don't fantasize about male monsters because they are hypermasculine, but precisely because they aren't human men. A monster is exempt from the whole human power structure. His strength feels natural, not political. And as Ranasinghe points it out, it's all the manliness, and none of the men. And here is the key move. A female monster paired with a human man doesn't solve this problem. There is no problem to begin with. So this genre just builds itself around monster means. Another reason is that romance has always built on taming the beast. So, the Romance scholar Catherine Roach, in an essay for the Journal of Popular Romance Studies, describes the whole genre as a kind of fantasy antidote to patriarchy. And she reaches back to the critic Northrop Frye, who identified one of the oldest images in storytelling, the monster tamed and controlled by maiden. Notice the shape of that. So the dangerous, powerful masculine force that is tamed and chooses to be gentle for her. And this whole arc only works if the love interest, if the monster is this scary man. Swap the genders and you will lose it. Okay, so the final reason is that, at least previously, mostly the women who were monsters were dangerous and horrible or something like that. But I think that's not the case at the moment. We can have women taking this role, but they are actually attractive. So I would suggest that this could be dismissed, but tell me what you think about this part in the comments as well. Am I even like exaggerating it, or is it true that it's mostly that the men are the monsters here? And why do you think that could be the case? And if you have any other counter ideas here, please share it. Okay, so let's just wrap it up. What's actually going on? Well, my own take is that we have always the case of that it's not a niche, it's just the industry. There is this concept in reinforcement learning, which is like exploration versus exploitation, and the fact that if you have an agent and you want to increase the accumulated reward in long term, you just have to exploit. And it's the same in book talk industry. They have just found a loophole here, or whatever that you name it, that, oh, we have a bunch of readers that they do enjoy monster romances, so let's just exploit it as much as possible, whether it is tentacles, whether it is werewolves, etc. So that's the part for the book talk. And another thing that I think is still valid here is similar to what we had in the forbidden love video. So this is like a taboo romance, like it's not a natural thing to happen, and that kind of builds up in terms of the desire for reading them, or falling for something like this and being more interested to know what's going on and being curious, because it's still a taboo thing. And finally, and this is the part that I'm coming back to, and that's the idea of first of all, the idea of what's inside the monster, and let's just remove everything, the horn, the tail, etc., and what is inside it. Inside is beautiful, so we do like it. And the other one would be that the idea of love me as I am, that we did start the reasons with. So we want to be loved as who we are, and we want to make it as easy as possible. So next time that you saw a person reading a romance with a dragon or a monster inside it, just try to shut the judgmental part of your brain for a second and think maybe there are deeper levels to it. So maybe they are just reading a story about acceptance, safety, and being loved with no condition. Or maybe it's just the tentacles. What do you think? Thank you so much for staying so long, and I hope that you did enjoy this video. Tell me if you have any other similar ideas that are this type of trends that are raising in book talk, and they are a bit weird to think about. I hope to see you in another video. Take care of yourselves and drink more water. See you.